As folks are looking for more and more areas to store things in the kitchen, we find people accessorizing base cabinets, especially in today's kitchens. We've talked in other videos about how we have fewer and fewer wall cabinets due to windows and large, expansive open floor plans. So what folks are doing is trying to accessorize their base cabinets as much as possible. And I know that every cook in the kitchen in America right now is looking for a place to keep things like sponges and those small things that are near the sink without keeping them in a junk drawer that gets all kind of cruddied up. Brillo pads, that kind of thing. So these soap tilt, or tilt trays as Conestoga calls them, are pretty popular. We see a lot of them on overlay. I want to stress, excuse me, we don't do a lot of these on inset and don't recommend it. We'll talk about why when we do the actual demonstration of how to put this in. But you can see the action's kind of nice. It ends up giving you a nice reveal to follow your overlay. And when you pop it open, you've got an almond colored tray that you can put soap. If you used them in a bathroom application, you could have things like toothbrushes and that kind of thing in there. So fairly useful. A couple things I want to warn you about. These are easier, much easier to put on when you have new cabinetry with no countertop and no sink. As you watch the assembly or the installation video on this in a moment, you'll see that trying to get in here when you have a sink bowl on a countertop is next to impossible. So you'll want to really consider these when it's new construction and you're building these cabinets from Conestoga from scratch. Don't come back and try to do this after the fact. If you do have to put it in with a sink bowl, or even when you're doing your planning with your cabinet joint sales rep, always think about where the front of the sink bowl is going to be, because the setback on this soap tilt tray is about 2¼ inches, I believe. You want to make sure you don't have your sink bowl so far forward that when you shut this, it hits the sink bowl. So make sure when you're talking to your plumber and your countertop people about sink location, you keep that sink cutout back from the front of the cabinet by at least 2½, 3 inches would be ideal. So with that said, let's get started showing you how this actually goes in. And I want to say also, this is the same model you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. This is nothing special. We don't like to oversell people, and while this is a nice unit, there are ones out there where the tray is stainless steel instead of plastic. There's lots of aftermarket sources for these. If you are wanting a sink tip tray like this, don't feel like this is the only game in town. There's lots to pick from, and if you send us a spec from one you found somewhere else, our sales guys can tell you if it can work in our cabinet and how it would go in. We're happy to do that for you, but this is just an option to consider. So let's get started with our assembly on this sink tilt tray. You have a little box, doesn't come with much in it, a little box about this size, and what you're going to get is two almond colored plastic trays. They're both 11 inches long, and what Reveshelf and Conestoga are assuming is you may want one tray on a small base cabinet, you may want two trays on the back of a wide single false drawer sink base cabinet, or you may have two individual false drawers that open and shut, in which case you can put one of these in the back of each. That leads me to my second point, which is they're kind enough to give you two pairs of hinges. So if you have a double drawer sink base cabinet, you can do a sink tilt on each drawer with this kit. You do not need to order two separate kits. Very critical point. In our assembly today, we're just going to show you one tray. We'll just use one set of hinges. You get your instructions, which are pretty easy to follow, and then you get this little template here, which you're going to want to keep handy. It can easily get thrown out because you don't really see it, very small. This will serve two purposes in a minute. We'll get to that. So make sure you keep that. As far as tools, you need your pencil, tape measure. It's really nice to have one of these Irwin clamps. You can get these at Lowe's or Home Depot for about $7 for a small one like this. They act as a nice second set of hands for you. So you're going to need this or a helper. I would say this because it keeps it nice and stable. And then a screw gun. You're going to need a 3/32 drill bit as well as a Phillips tip. If you want one gun, you can do that. In our case, we've got two kicking around, so we just keep the drill bit in one and the tip in the other. So, all right, let's get started. First thing you're going to do is open your instruction manual, and I'm going to walk you through the next steps, which is to locate the hinges on the actual cabinet box. And before we even locate the hinges, what they really want us to do is figure out the final location of our drawer front. So we're going to demonstrate this as full overlay, okay? So what happens here is you have to know Conestoga's reveal orientation. Sometimes you'll have your door already on, that would help. We don't, that's okay. We know that on full overlay, I want 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch here, and 1/2 inch above, okay? So I've already done this before we shot this video, so I've made my marks and everything. Just follow along, and you would have to measure this to make sure you're down 1/2 inch and you're at your 1/4 inch. So let's just say that's where it was. And you're going to clamp this off. This is where your second set of hands comes in. You're going to clamp this off to hold that drawer right where you need it to be. And then all you do is you take your pencil and you run a line inside the front frame on the back of the drawer front. So I'm going to make a line here, and that's my outline. You'll see how that comes in handy in a minute. I pop my clamp off, and what I have is, if you can see that, I've got my line all the way around the drawer box that represents this front frame opening. This is what is all my measurements are going to be driven off of now. Okay, so I can set this off to the side. I take our trusty little template, and it says bottom. Okay, so I'm going to hold that up against the front frame, right up against the front edge. So I'm putting that right along the front edge of the front frame, and I'm just going to make 2 pencil marks right where that hole is. And you can even do this. I'll show you another way to do it, is just hold it up there and run the drill right through it if you want. Instead of making pencil marks, just hold that where it was. And all you're trying to do is punch a couple shallow holes here as pre-drills. You don't got to go in real deep. Okay, I'm going to do it on the other side now. Hold it right up against your front frame. And in we go. So once you're done drilling your holes here, your next step is to drill the holes on the drawer front panel. We'll do that in a second, and you're going to use your template again. So now we're going to punch out the smaller card. This is no longer to be used for the moment, so we can set that off to the side. And this is called extension template. It'll say it right on it. You want to find the bottom of the drawer front. So I know that I had the higher part was sticking above, had a 1-inch reveal above with a half above that. So this is my top, and I marked T on it just so when I was making my measurements and took the drawer off, I know where the top is. So I got T written at the top. You want to go to the bottom corner here and here. And all I'm going to do is take that same 3/32 drill. I'm going to put my little card right in the corner, and I'm going to punch 2 little quick holes right in the center of the template where the crosshairs are. And you do not want to go in far. These screws are not long, and if you get too rambunctious and start pressing through, you'll come right through the front of your drawer front, and now that is ruined. So you just want to go in about 1/4 inch. Line it up over here. Same thing. I can set that off. You won't use that again. All right, now this template is going to come back here again. You're going to use it sideways now. There's 2 little notches. You're going to take this, set it in the corner, and you're just going to put a pencil line right at the top notch. So I'll tilt that up so you can see it. The instructions show it. You're going to put a pencil line right at the top notch there. You're going to move it over and put a pencil line right at the top notch there. And what that represents, our next step is going to be to line your sink tilt tray up. And that line you just made, that little notch, that's the top of the tray. So you're not getting all sloppy. And if you make this too low, it could hit the front frame. So you want to keep this high, keep it lined up with that. And what I've done is I found the center of the drawer front, just measure it, divide by 2, and there's your center. And I marked the center of the tray. So I now have the tray in the center of the drawer front, and I'm going to line it up with my top marks I just made. And then it's simply a matter of taking your pencil and putting a dot right in there, and that's where these 2 screws are going to go into that key head slot to hold your tilt tray on. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up here. It keeps moving on me. Make a mark. Get my drill. And again, not deep holes. Just 1/4 inch. Now we need hardware. So I'm going to open up my hardware pack, one of them. Set my hinges down for a second. And there's 2 kinds of screws in here. You're going to have a truss head screw, which is kind of round, and you're going to have a flat head screw, which is flat. We're going to use the truss head screws. Get these open with my pencil. I should have brought a razor. Dump them all out. I'm going to need 2 of the truss head screws, and all I'm going to do is drive it in about halfway. You can see the screw head is still sticking out. And now I can come back and mount that on and screw those down when I'm ready. Okay, so it just locks onto that key head screw and down. And now we're in good shape. I'm going to take these back off for a second. If you had 2 drawer fronts, you do this the same on both drawer fronts. Now we're going to get to actually installing the hinge mechanism itself. So let me grab the parts for that and we'll be right back. So now what we're going to do is mount our left and right hinges right to the drawer front itself. So you're going to need both the hinge bodies, and you're going to need 4 more of these truss head, rounded head screws. Okay, this is really easy now. Grab your screw gun. Hopefully you have a magnetic tip or bit, and you're going to make the left-hand one. You want the big plenum on the side facing out, that little tab facing down. And so spin this a little for the camera. And now I'm just going to run my screw right in the hole. These holes are keyholed, so you can slide. You just loosen the screw up. You can slide the hinge left and right if need be. Okay, do my second one. Okay, line up my second one. Just firm those screws up. Don't overscrew them and strip out your wood. And again, because they're keyhole slotted, you can always adjust them later. So now I've got my drawer front, I've got my slots ready for the actual tray itself. If I spin this around, now my goal is to fold these out and mount these right to the front frame itself. So I'm going to keep my thumb like this. You can see if I let it go, it springs back. I'm going to keep my thumb fully extended so that I can get to both these 2 slotted holes to allow the screws to go in. I'm just going to hold this up and I'm going to get my flathead screws. You should have 1 more screw than you need in all situations here. So they gave me 5, I think I only need 4. Load one up, extend the glide or the hinge, and I'm going to come inside the cabinet this way. Firm that one up. And that, what you're hearing is it's a torque driver, so you're hearing the clutch and the torque driver. We're not stripping screws out there. I want to come to the other side here. So just duplicate that action on the other side here. My second screw on. And again, you got to have this thing fully extended to get to this second bottom hole. Okay, firm that one up again. All right, what we have is a tilt out that will tilt out beautifully when we put our tray on, which you can do anytime. But what you're going to do is you're going to shut this, and you can tighten that up from behind if you need to. If you're putting it on now, you'd have a hard time getting a long screwdriver in here because of the front frame, so you may need a short one. But you can put this tray on and go ahead and tighten that up. If you have this tray on while you're trying to screw these in, you may find the tray gets in the way of the drill gun. So that's kind of your call if you want to put the tray in before you put this on or not. But that's your soap tilt tray installation. Got a nice reveal here, 1/2 inch across the top, 1/4 inch all the way around. And you can see the kind of action you get here. It kind of goes up and down. And if you saw it from the side, you'd see the drawer front is actually rising up and going down. This is why we don't want this for an inset application. You really want to use this only for overlay, 1/2 inch or 1 1/4 overlay. So there's your installation. Give us a call if you have any questions, 888-211-6482. Thanks for watching.